have mixed feelings about that. For the most part, yes, reading is taught well in school as long as they're taught phonics. If they're not taught phonics, then they're just memorizing, and kids who memorize hate to read.
I don't. I know in my past experience at teaching high school students, we would get students who could not read, and I think I expressed this to you one day. And when they can't read, they can't comprehend even the subject matter because they can't read. Now, if you tell it to them or if you read it to them, then they can understand. But to read it for themselves, they can't. So, and then by the time they got on the high school level, what do you do with a child that can't read? I mean, you know, it's like, where do you begin? You don't really know where to begin to teach them to do that.
I do not think reading is taught well in school. I just don't think the teachers have the time. There's too many kids in a classroom.
I think that they try to teach reading well in schools, but I don't think it works as well as they wanted to. I think that with programs like Accelerated Reader and things like that, they don't fit the students that they're trying to reach to read. It sometimes can work well for elementary school ages, but once you get older into high school and middle school and college, it doesn't work because you're not, there's no reward for reading these things and asking people to take time out of all the other things that they have to do, all the other schools and jobs, and to sit down and read a book on their own. And getting rid of, you know, like phonics and teaching people to actually sit down and read and sound words out. That doesn't exist anymore. They teach people to recognize words, but you can't learn to read like that, because what happens when you come across the word that you don't know? You just skip it and move over it and never actually learn that this is how you read a word, and this is why it sounds the way it does. And you know, I'm being in college, you come across so many people who can't read, and that's a really scary thing, because you know, they're getting ready to go out into the workforce, and they can't read a sentence, and they can't read a book, and they don't know what words mean. And that's where the school system is lacking, is that they aren't teaching people how to read, and they're not encouraging them to sit down and read on their own. So they're taking these classes just to graduate and just to finish without ever actually learning anything about reading.
Well, coming from a homeschool family, but I have worked in a public school before, so I think that the teachers very much try to make reading very important, and to base the other learning around books. So I really do think they're trying, but I think in the home it's not as important.
I do. I think the way that they expose kids to different children's literature and different genres of literature is important.
No. I think they focus so much on just other topics that reading is one that they don't emphasize enough. We get too many students that come in that can't read functionally. They can't read complete sentences. They can't read for a sustained period of time. You know, if you can get students to sit down and read something for 10 minutes, you're lucky. You have some students that are avid readers, but by and large, I think most of them just read in very short spurts. They don't know how to absorb and visualize what they read. You know, so they're just reading words and not really understanding meaning a lot of times.
I am more hopeful about the teaching of reading now than I was 10 or 15 years ago, because the teachers have moved from the sight word type of teaching to the phonics, gone back to good old-fashioned phonics, and I think that gives a better basis. It gives the students a tool to work with that can be utilized no matter what level. Plus, there are so many subjects, genres, and types of literature out that are aimed specifically at students of separate ages, that the interest is there where it wasn't before.
I think if there wasn't technology, the only form of entertainment would be reading, like it used to be.
You know, I have a degree in information technology, and the internet and electronic databases and things are wonderful for research, but you still can't beat the books.
I think it's a wonderful idea to integrate technology because it exposes children to more ways of looking at literature and different methods that they can take, like research and things like that, that expose them to more literature.
That's a hard question. I don't know whether it does or not. I do know that I think it's hurting in some cases, like texting. I think that is hurting spelling, you know, and that's a part of reading, because then they're beginning to use texting to write their sentences for formal papers. Well, that's not good. As far as their skills, I mean, they can do things I can't do. I mean, you know, I didn't grow up in the technological age, and you know, it's still struggles. It's a lot of struggles for me to have to deal with all of that. But I know we had when I was doing some Hallmark cards, they handed us this little machine. Well, it was like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. We just going, come on, you know, this is like starting all over. So, you know, and they can do all of that. So, you know, as far as their skills along those lines, that has improved, and that's what the world is centered around today.
Well, I think that the current technology today, I know it does keep people so busy using it that they don't have time to read the book. I would like to see people reading something. There's no substitute for an actual book, but certainly, you know, I know you can read a book online, and so I'm all for reading anywhere you'll read. Oh, I think that a lot of the things that the technology that's out there is very distracting because there's only so much time in the day. And I have sat in front of the computer and time flies. And then the next thing you know, you got to do other things. So I certainly think that it can distract you.
All right. If I could erase texting, I would erase it in a heartbeat. I have received notes from students that I sat and I have struggled over because they have been written in text, that kind of thing. Technology has made more resources available for research. As far as pleasure reading, I honestly do not think it has any effect on them at that, or that we have seen as yet.
I think technology has had a very negative impact on kids reading for fun. I think that if handled properly, technology will help kids. If not handled properly, kids will read as little as possible and press as many buttons that Bing as they can.